For those of you headed off to college or already in college, or for those of you who are starting your first job or maybe creating your own business, I'm going to talk you through some things in this video that will help you succeed. I'm Jason M. Garrett, a retired Navy commander and a pilot, and now an investor and entrepreneur. I'm also a dad who in 2021 had to send his oldest daughter to school more than 1,000 miles away. No sooner did she got established at school than all kinds of weird things happened to her. For instance, there was a huge storm system that rolled through and flooded her town with so much water that it actually drowned people in their basements. The water was so deep, if you will, on our campus that it flooded the fields, and all the mice ran for their lives and actually went into their dormitories and filled them up. There were so many mice in the hall, they called in the maintenance team, and the maintenance team had a novel solution for getting rid of the mice. They stuck sticky traps under everybody's beds. So as you can imagine, in the middle of the night, the screaming of the mice could be heard all over the place, and the kids didn't react really well to it at all. It kind of had a negative impact on them. So there was that going on. This was the day or the time, if you will, that any sneeze or sniffle might be COVID. So they would cancel classes and then put them on Zoom. And if you've ever done a Zoom class, you'll know that is no way to learn. You're disengaged, you're not fully into it, you're looking at a TV screen. You don't know if there's others who are actually on the other side listening to what you are, so there's no involvement. It's just not quite the way to learn that we've gotten used to. So that didn't go overly well. There were also riots in the cities nearby, protests, and so on. Needless to say, there was a lot going on, and she became very, very distracted by all the chaos. For our daughter, her studying went from being her number one priority to no priority at all. Now, being cut off by such a distance from her, my wife and I could feel this. We could sense this. We're parents. We obviously have a tie to our kid up here and in here, and we knew exactly what was going on with her. And we decided to reach out in any way that we could. And one of the ways that we reached out to her was something called a Dadogram. I typed up my first official Dadogram back in the fall of 2021, and I sent it to her as a way to teach her things that she might not already know. You see, before 8th grade or so, kids probably wouldn't necessarily understand the lessons that I have to teach in these Dadograms. In high school, that's when it would be great to teach them, but then they're a little bit too busy with friends, academics, sports. There's just no time to sit them down and talk story with them and tell them the things that I know in order to help them succeed. And then, of course, in college, they aren't interested in listening to dad at all. But anyway, I did my best to write these down for her, and now I'm putting them on video form so that my 3 kids can watch them anytime that they are able, as well as my grandkids, perhaps even my great-grandkids. They're going to be able to learn from me the secrets to my wife and I's success in our professions or in our careers and in life. And hopefully, you'll get something out of it as well. We are going to be sharing our family's values and our beliefs, the hard lessons learned, how we have come back from defeat and actually won, and of course, how we do it. You can consider everything I have to say. You might be able to learn from some of it. You can even reject some of it, but it's all offered to you nonetheless. Okay, so let's get started. My very first Dadogram, a video version of an email I sent my daughter a few months after she got started way back in the fall of 2021. The first thing I needed to address with her in my Dadogram was great expectations. Now, they say kids need boundaries. They can be free to run like crazy within those boundaries, but if they don't have boundaries, well, they can truly go astray. My wife and I realized that we had not really set boundaries for our daughter as she went off to school. And we assumed that she knew academic achievement was the most important thing. After all, she was going to complete a very, very difficult degree, and you had to have good grades to accomplish it. But as I mentioned, she became distracted with the chaos and confusion of the difficult things going on in campus and the surrounding cities. Of course, she wasn't alone. We were talking on social media with a lot of parents, and a lot of the kids were going through the same thing. But we wanted to be proactive, so we reached out to help. We needed to sculpt the expectation for our daughter at college, and we needed to do it soon. So I should probably explain the concept of sculpting the expectation, as it's an important thing for everybody to know. Sculpting the expectation was a way for our bosses in the Navy to clearly articulate the mission that they expected us to accomplish. That's when they would tell us what they wanted accomplished, to what standards it needed to be met, as well as the timeline that it needed to be completed on. As it turned out, we had not done that for her. We had just turned her loose in a foreign part of the country without any guidance at all. Even my wife and I, both retired Navy commanders and pilots, we don't always get it right. So we reached out to her and told her what those expectations of ours were. And it was pretty simple, pretty general, but our great expectations were simply this. 1, achieve high academic standing. 2, communicate with us daily. And 3, do nothing that will have permanent consequences until she is over 21 years of age. Now, if you're wondering what the heck that last one's about, don't worry, I'll explain it in detail in this datagram. Anyway, in those 3 simple statements, we sculpted the expectation for her. But for us to just throw them out like this, they weren't specific enough. As I said, these were general concepts. For her, we needed to be much more specific. And whether you're going to college or are a parent of a college student, you'll need to be specific too. So let me explain some important terms that will help. The first term that we're going to discuss is mission. All right. Up to about age 30, I only had a vague idea of what a mission was, despite the fact that I was a naval aviator flying missions in support of combat operations in the wake of the 9/11 attacks. About that time, I was also taking JPME, which is Joint Professional Military Education, a new requirement that the Navy gave us that was about 3/4 of my master's degree in national security and strategic studies. In it, I learned all about strategy and realized that while I had always understood the things associated with strategy and how to use them, I never had learned the words or the vocabulary to articulate my thoughts about strategy. JPME gave me the words I needed to convey my thoughts about strategy, and today I want to introduce you to a few of those terms. First off, the term is mission. According to the JP, the joint publication, the definition of mission is, bear with me now, it's a little bit bulky, but I'll slim it down for you. The definition of a mission is the task, together with the purpose, that clearly indicates the actions to be taken and the reason therefore. What that simply means in layman's terms is mission equals task plus purpose. Mission equals task plus purpose. The thing you're going to do and the reason that you're doing it. You've got to know both of those. You always hear people talking about needing a powerful why. Yeah, that's your purpose, right? But you also need to know the task, the thing you're doing to accomplish the why. Those two things have got to go together, and when they do, they are called a mission. But in this simple equation, the words task and purpose have a military type definition that is important to learn as well. They are not actually written into the Joint Pub. They are written in a different naval publication that I actually don't have access to, but I generally know what they are. So I'm going to give them to you in my layman's terms, if you will. Task equals, in my own definition, the action to be accomplished with the timeline in which it needs to be accomplished and the quality standards to which it must be achieved. Okay? I'll expound on that a little bit more, but bear with me. The purpose, though, in my own definition, is the overarching reason for the completion of the task. It is important to have both the task and the purpose, or the mission can't be accomplished. Consider the following task. I task my daughter, for instance, to drive to the grocery store. That's a task. That's something you can do. But good luck with that. What the heck are you supposed to do there? Oh, that's right. You need to know the purpose for which you're doing the task. Let's say in this example, the purpose is to obtain a rotisserie chicken. All right, so the mission would read as drive to the grocery store in order to get a rotisserie chicken. The purpose and the task are always joined by the words in order to. So if you ever hear anyone say in order to, you're getting a mission from somebody, okay? So think about that. Start adding that word into everything that you are telling someone to do. Go do this in order to accomplish a larger purpose, okay? Now this task and purpose together create a mission, but it is still not very specific. She may wonder what the chicken is for. Where do I take it? What does it need to be? What flavor do I need that chicken to be? And so forth. You can write it all down in the mission, but you can also answer all of these questions fairly well by only adding 2 simple words. At least in our family, these 2 words would work. Those 2 words being for dinner, okay? So now the mission is drive to the grocery store in order to get a rotisserie chicken for dinner. Now, she would know that dinner is for all 5 of us, my 5-person family. She would know the approximate timeline in order to get it there and get it home in time for us to prepare it for dinner. She'd even know our family's usual favorite flavor and the size we would need. Now, as simple as this example is, we have a completely executable mission. So now you understand the basics of a mission. Let's look at the guidance that my wife and I gave our daughter and see if this makes sense from a mission perspective. Number 1, or mission 1, or sculpting the expectation number 1, if you will, is achieve high academic standing. Does that seem specific enough? I don't think so. Is it really a mission? I don't see the words in order to. I don't even really see a task or purpose. So actually, it wasn't a mission for her. Now, ideally, as parents, we'd want to work with our children in order to come up with the right mission regarding academics. We want to keep it realistic and accomplishable for the student. But in my original Dadogram, working by myself, I just kind of shot from the hip. In my example, her mission looks something like this. Achieve a 3.5 or greater GPA each semester in order to assure that she is marketable to the most elite jobs or graduate level opportunities. All right, so that was a mission for her. That way she knew what she was doing and why she was doing it. And of course, that why needs to be compelling. If you aren't working toward a greater job or a graduate level opportunity in college, well, you might just be wasting your money and your time in college. You better figure something else out. You can be much more specific, naming the specific jobs or graduate schools that they want to go to, increasing their GPA to achieve those specific standards that they require. But again, I just shot from the hip here without talking to her. My example was more specific than our great expectations laid out, and I expect her to make the edits that she saw fit. I was just sort of showing her the way here. It's important for the mission to be specific and tailored to fit the goal of the student so that they have ownership of it. That's an important one, ownership, and in turn become more passionate about it. And by knowing your mission, if you're ever conflicted on what to do, whether you got an offer from a friend to go to a party the night before a final, or to go to New York City to explore the sights or so on, you can always lean on the primary mission to achieve a 3.5 plus GPA each semester in order to assure that you are marketable to the most elite jobs and graduate level opportunities. If going to a party isn't in alignment with that mission, then you don't do it. It's that simple. Okay, so let's look at our second mission, to communicate with us daily. There were communication issues during this time, and we were sitting at home in Florida, free to move around during COVID, but knowing she was having to deal with canceled classes and requirements to stay in her dorm room for days on end. And we were worried about her. It was hard on all of us. Anyway, for this one, my wife and I were more specific about it. We told her on a cell phone call that we wanted her to FaceTime with her mom every evening at a set time. That way we can help make sure that she stayed on track with everything going on up there. So we had it written down. If we had written it down, it would sound something like this. Communicate with your mom and dad 3 to 5 times a week via text, voice, or FaceTime formats in order to benefit from our wise counsel, to make us feel comfortable in the fact that she was alive and well and focused on the primary mission, and to brainstorm any events or situations she was currently involved in or contemplating. It's a little bit long, but it was actually kind of important. I thought it was pretty good in general. It was specific, actionable, and something we could all live with. And as you can see, there were more than one purpose for this particular mission or this particular task, and that is perfectly fine. You could have a bunch of additional purposes involved. So that was an easy one, mission 2 was. That is how we ultimately wrote it out for her to work on. Now, let's look at the last one. I know, that last one's a little bit weird. Do not do anything that will have permanent consequences until you are over age 21. Remember that one? Probably got a lot of puzzled looks from you guys as you heard me say that. So let's take a look at it. But before we do, I need to talk to you about something totally different. I want to ask you, have you ever heard the phrase, ducks pick ducks? Weird one, huh? Ducks. A long time ago, back around 2005 or 2006, when I was a lieutenant in the Navy, I was working directly for an admiral as his flag aide. Admirals have someone who manages our staff, and this person is called the Chief of Staff. And since it's COS, we call them CAWS. Now, our CAWS, like many of them, was a Navy captain, an old, crusty, irritable guy, but a really bright mind that taught me a lot about life. Now, he used to always have this phrase, and it was ducks pick ducks, especially if we were talking about promotability or future promotions. It simply means that folks choose those who look, act, and seem most like them. It's nearly synonymous with the concept of birds of a feather flock together. Consider this. I once heard a story about a young hotshot in the corporate world who outperformed his peers, and he kept getting passed over for promotions. He could never figure out why until he walked in one day and point blank turned and asked a friend what he thought. Why was he still getting passed over for all these promotions? And his friend looked at him like he had horns growing out of his head and said, "You don't look like a boss." "Huh?" he said, and he looked around. Everyone around him, as they were walking into work, was wearing a suit and a tie. Juniors, seniors, subordinates, leaders, they were all wearing corporate attire. He knew every one of them had just parked their Mercedes or their Jaguar in the parking garage, stepped into the elevator, and were now filing into work headed into their perfect little offices. He stepped up to a wall mirror nearby and looked at himself. In stark contrast to those all around him, he was arriving wearing a leather motorcycle jacket, denim blue jeans, and rider's boots. Instead of a briefcase like everybody else was carrying around, he had a backpack in one hand and his helmet in the other. He looked like a member of a bike gang instead of a corporate titan. And he had always thought that getting the lone motorcycle parking spot next to the elevator in the parking garage had been a great thing. Not so much. He had the wrong look. And ducks pick ducks. Ducks don't pick wolves or skunks or cats. He didn't look the part, so he didn't get promoted, no matter how good he was. Corporate CEOs don't promote somebody who looks like they'd rather be a member of the Hells Angels. They just don't. So the legend goes, he changed his look, he eventually got promoted, and that was that. Now, I know you're all shaking your head thinking, no. This can't be. There's no way. I know lots of CEOs who are whatever. Bikers, tattooed, pierced, so on. All right. The guy with piercings and tattoos on their face that's the CEO of a large company, that kind of stuff is quite literally the stuff of legend. They make the news, they make the podcast because they are the very, very, very rare anomaly. I'll introduce you to a concept called Pareto's Principle or the 80-20 rule later, but for now, trust me on this. If you want to get picked by a duck, look like a duck, or even better, be a duck. This concept is important because as you are young and free and blending with all those around you on college campuses, you only see the now. You only see what is cool among your friends, your peers, not what will make you hireable or promotable to your 40-year-old boss in the corporate world that you haven't even met yet, much less thought about. That's why we designed the third mission for our daughter and for all of our kids, to protect their hireability, their promotability, even their marryability in the future. Do nothing that will have permanent consequences until you are over age 21. When you graduate and get a job where the duck will be the one who picks you or won't, you can easily cut your hair or grow it out. You can change the colors of your nails. You can change your clothes. Whatever you need to do to look like the duck who might pick you. However, you can't erase a felony conviction, a drug habit, a child out of wedlock, a deadbeat husband or a wife, or a bad reputation. So beware. If you can hold off doing stupid shit until 21, or even better, until 25, then the odds that you will never make these decisions in the first place go up quite a bit. And by then, well, you're way ahead of everybody else. Mission 3 is as close to good as it really can be, provided you think through any action to determine if it could have permanent consequences. It is hard to imagine all the don'ts to list out. That is why the list of do's, like in Mission 1 and 2, are easier to write. But Mission 3 could look like this. Here we go. You ready? Do nothing that will have permanent consequences in order to ensure your suitability for future work or marriage, like get pregnant or cause a pregnancy out of wedlock, develop a drinking problem, get addicted to drugs, become a smoker or a vapor, get a felony, get a misdemeanor, get a tattoo, go heavily into debt, get a gambling addiction, get injured or maimed, injure or maim anyone else, get a bad reputation until you are 21 or even better, 25. And why these specific ages? Well, to speak factually, not to insult anybody here, but it has to do with plain old brain development. There's a reason insurance rates drop at age 25. There's a reason you need to be over age 25 to be able to get a hotel room. There are reasons you need to be over age 21 in order to be able to legally drink. There are huge mental changes that happen in your early 20s that improve your impulse control and judgment. Before your early 20s, and I don't mean to hurt your feelings here, I just know from experience, you sometimes make really fun, but really bad decisions. And they can cost you dearly in the future. Anyway, by following this mission, you will be able to look like the duck that will pick you in the future. And that means you win. So hopefully this all makes sense. If it doesn't, trust me. Trust my wife. We know what we're talking about. Not only have I lived a long life, but we, my wife and I, both have led hundreds, even thousands of young men and women in the Navy and the Marine Corps, and have had to help guide them through so many difficult situations. We may not have seen and experienced it all, but we've seen and experienced more than anyone else you are ever likely to meet. And I'm going to keep sharing the weird and bizarre experiences I've had with these young people as I hopefully help you avoid the pitfalls that await you. So a quick review for my college-bound kids. The great expectations are for you to achieve high academic standings, communicate with your parents or guardians daily, do nothing that will have permanent consequences until you are over age 21. Also, remember each of these needs to be rewritten as a mission with a task and a purpose, with its own timelines and standards to be completed by in order to accomplish the larger purpose of successfully getting through to graduation. Anytime you set a goal, make sure you make it a mission. Know what you're doing, the standards that must be accomplished, and why you are doing it. That's the task and the purpose. That is a mission. It will help you to stay on track as you navigate life's challenges in pursuit of achieving it. Okay, so that's all there is for this fun-filled datagram. Almost. I have a few inspirational quotes to add on, hopefully to inspire you. All right, first one. Do not correct a fool or he will hate you. Correct a wise man and he will appreciate you. That's the first quote. Second quote. A man with money is no match against a man on a mission. That was Doyle Brunson, and that one is a legit fact. Think about that one. And then finally, this one, I kind of ad-libbed a little bit on this one, but I think you get the gist of what I'm going with. This nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out, there's your timeline, of landing a man on the moon, the task, and returning him safely to Earth, the standards. We choose to go to the moon because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, purpose. And of course, there was also the alternative of getting there before the Soviets did, so I'm sure that was part of it. And then finally, because I'm a big Rocky fan, I'm going to butcher this pretty badly about how Rocky would say it, but it's, Yo, Adrian, I want to be in the best physical shape I can in order to beat Apollo Creed, right? Rocky Balboa's mission. I technically made that up, but I'm sure that's what his real mission was. Okay? So that's it for this fun-filled datagram.